I've been a cop for over 25 years, and I thought I'd seen everything, until my own homeowners association tried to have me arrested. The irony, I'm the chief of police. My name's David Callahan, and I live in the Oak Hollow Estates community, a neatly gated neighborhood tucked away on the outskirts of Pine Ridge, Virginia. When I bought my home 3 years ago, I was looking for peace, a place to retire quietly when my badge days were done. The lawns were manicured, the streets were calm, and the residents seemed friendly. But I've learned something the hard way. No battlefield compares to an HOA with a grudge. 1. The warning letter. It all started with a letter taped to my front door. The paper had the HOA's logo stamped across the top, a big green oak tree, perfectly symmetrical, and a tone that was anything but neighborly. Greater than, Mr. Callahan, you are in violation of Section 4.2 of the Oak Hollow Covenants. Your driveway has visible oil stains that detract from the aesthetic harmony of the community. Failure to address this issue within 7 days will result in a fine and potential legal action. I remember standing there, coffee in hand, staring at that paper like it was a joke. The oil spots were faint, barely visible, just from my old truck that I occasionally used for fishing trips. I called the HOA office to clear it up, expecting a calm chat. Instead, I got Eleanor Briggs, the HOA president, a woman with the voice of a chainsaw and the persistence of a bloodhound. Mr. Callahan, she said sharply, the rules are the rules. We maintain standards here. I understand, I replied. I'll take care of it this weekend. That won't do, she cut in. You've already been warned twice. Twice, I said. I've never received a single notice. She sniffed. Perhaps they were misplaced. But you have 72 hours now. The line went dead. That should have been my first red flag. 2. Escalation. I power washed the driveway that very afternoon, making sure there wasn't a trace of anything left. But 2 days later, another letter appeared. Greater than, violation persists. Fines accumulating. Legal proceedings to be considered. This time, I walked straight to the HOA office, a small room next to the clubhouse where Eleanor held court like a tyrant queen. She was there, of course, wearing a blazer and pearls, tapping away at her laptop. Mrs. Briggs, I began, setting the letter down. The stains are gone. I cleaned it myself. She didn't even look up. Our inspector disagrees. Then your inspector needs glasses, I snapped. Look, I'm trying to be reasonable. That got her attention. Her eyes flicked up, cold and calculating. We expect compliance, Mr. Callahan, not excuses. Some residents think they're above the rules. I knew what she was implying. That because I wore a badge, I thought I could do whatever I wanted. Truth was, I'd kept my job quiet. I didn't go around telling folks I was the chief of police. But clearly, someone had found out. 3. The retaliation. Over the next month, I became the HOA's favorite target. First, they fined me for leaving garbage cans visible from the street, even though they'd been out for less than 2 hours on collection day. Then it was for an unauthorized mailbox color. Mine was black, so was every other one on the block. It was harassment, plain and simple. My neighbors, most of them decent folks, whispered that Eleanor had it out for me. She'd butted heads with several homeowners before, but I was the first to push back with documentation and photos proving her wrong. That, apparently, was unforgivable. 4. The night of the incident. It happened on a Friday night in June. I'd just gotten home from a city council meeting, one of those long, bureaucratic nightmares that drag on past 10. My porch light was on, my wife asleep upstairs, and I was halfway through taking off my shoes when I heard a knock. Not a gentle one, a hard, rapid pounding. I looked through the peephole and froze. 2 men stood outside, dressed in what looked like police uniforms. One of them barked, "Open up. Pine Ridge Police Department." Now, I know every officer in this county. Every single one. And those 2 weren't them. I didn't open the door. "Badge numbers," I called out. The taller one flashed something, a shiny emblem on a leather wallet, but from the angle, it was impossible to read. "We have an arrest warrant," he said. "Step outside, sir." "Really?" I said, keeping my tone calm. "Who signed it?" Judge Harmon, the man said quickly. Too quickly. That name was familiar. He was a retired judge, not an active one. My instincts went cold. I turned on my porch light camera and quietly reached for my service pistol. I wasn't about to brandish it. Not yet, but I wasn't about to let two imposters into my home either. Gentlemen, I said, unlocking the door just enough to show my badge. Chief Callahan, Pine Ridge PD. You've got 10 seconds to explain yourselves. The shorter one's face drained of color. You're, what? I stepped outside, full uniform still hanging in my closet but my tone every bit as authoritative as I'd ever used on duty. You're impersonating officers, I said. Hands where I can see them. The taller one started to stammer something about a misunderstanding, but by then I'd already called dispatch on my phone's emergency line. Within minutes, real officers, my officers, were on scene. The two fakes were handcuffed and sitting on the curb by the time I walked down my driveway. One of my lieutenants, Harris, looked up from questioning them and said, "You're not gonna believe this, Chief." He handed me a piece of paper. It was a notice of enforcement, printed on wall letterhead. Signed by Eleanor Briggs. The offense, non-payment of community fines, --5. The fallout. The next morning, I met Eleanor in her office. I didn't bother knocking. She was sitting behind her desk, pretending to type something important when I dropped a file in front of her, photographs, reports, and booking sheets. She glanced up, startled. "Chief Callahan," she said, her tone suddenly sweet. "Is there a problem?" "Oh, there's a problem," I said. "Two men in fake uniforms showed up at my house last night claiming to arrest me, on your orders." Her eyes darted toward the file, then back to me. "That's ridiculous. They had your signature on their paperwork," I said. "They said they were enforcing HOA policy." I hired them to serve notice," she stammered. "A private security firm." I leaned closer. "You hired felons, Eleanor. One of them has a prior for fraud, the other for assaulting an officer. Did you even check their credentials?" Her mouth opened and closed. "Impersonating police is a federal crime," I said quietly. "You're lucky no one got hurt." She tried to recover her composure. "I didn't know. They told me they were licensed." "Licensed to what?" "Kidnap your neighbors," I said. The silence stretched. She finally slumped back, face pale. "It wasn't supposed to go that far. We just wanted to scare you into paying the fines." "Scare me," I repeated. "You tried to have the chief of police arrested over oil stains." I left her there, trembling behind her desk. --6. The investigation. The next few weeks were chaos. The incident blew up once the story leaked, which it inevitably did. The local news ran headlines like, "HOA Gone Wild. Residents hired fake cops to arrest police chief." My department launched a formal investigation. The county prosecutor got involved. Eleanor and the HOA board claimed ignorance, saying they didn't authorize any impersonation, but the paper trail told a different story. Eleanor had signed a private enforcement agreement with two men posing as security consultants. The so-called contract gave them authority to serve penalties and execute HOA compliance actions. When investigators traced their company, it didn't exist. Just a P.O. box and a disconnected number. Both men, Anthony Vega and Luke Darrow, were charged with impersonating law enforcement officers, trespassing, and attempted unlawful detainment. Eleanor faced charges for conspiracy and reckless endangerment. The entire HOA board resigned within a month. --7. Aftermath. The neighborhood was a circus for weeks. News vans parked by the gates, reporters knocking on doors, neighbors whispering. Some residents were furious with me, not because I'd exposed the HOA's corruption, but because their property values were tanking under the negative publicity. Others thanked me. A few even brought casseroles. One older man, Mr. Jenkins, stopped me on my morning walk and said, "You did what we've all been too scared to do for years, stand up to her." That made it worth it. --8. The courtroom. 6 months later, Eleanor Briggs stood in court. Her lawyers argued she'd been misled by unscrupulous contractors, and had no malicious intent. But the evidence told another story: emails, invoices, and even a text where she'd written, "Greater than If he thinks his badge makes him untouchable, let's see how he likes being on the other side of it. The judge didn't take kindly to that. She was convicted on charges of reckless endangerment and solicitation of criminal impersonation, sentenced to a year of probation, community service, and permanent removal from any HOA board position in the state. As for the 2 men she hired, they went to prison. 9. A new beginning. Oak Hollow Estates changed after that. A new HOA board was elected, this time composed of residents who actually cared about the community, not about power trips or petty control. They repealed half the absurd rules, lowered the fines, and made meetings open to everyone. I declined an invitation to join the board, though. I'd had enough of politics, in any form. Still, sometimes when I mow my lawn or walk the dog, I see Eleanor's old house, empty now, for sale, sign faded and leaning in the grass. And I can't help but think how far she went just to prove a point. 10. Epilogue. Lessons learned. The story made national headlines for a while. Talk shows called it, the HOA versus the chief. Memes popped up online with captions like, "Don't mess with the neighborhood watch when the watch is the police." It was funny in retrospect, but at the time, it was anything but. You see, HOAs are supposed to protect property values and ensure harmony. But too often, they become playgrounds for petty tyrants, people who crave control over others because they lack it elsewhere. Eleanor Briggs thought she could intimidate her neighbors, enforce her vision of perfection, and bully anyone who resisted. She picked the wrong target when she chose me. I still live in Oak Hollow. My driveway's clean, my mailbox is still black, and the only letters I get now are from the new HOA. Polite, friendly ones that start with, "Dear Resident," instead of, "Notice of Violation." Every now and then, someone new moves in and asks about the story they heard online, about the HOA that tried to arrest the police chief. I just smile and say, yeah, that happened. But the neighborhood's a lot quieter now. Then I look out over my neatly mowed lawn, the peaceful street, and the quiet cul-de-sac that once turned into a war zone, and I think about how fragile civility can be when power falls into the wrong hands. In the end, it wasn't about oil stains or mailboxes. It was about control, ego, and fear. And as I tell every young officer under my command, greater than, you don't need a badge to do the right thing. But you damn sure shouldn't use one, real or fake, to do the wrong thing.